danger, check for response. If there is no response, you now need to check airway and breathing. Because if there is a response, you know that they are breathing at that precise moment. Okay. When you are unconscious, all your muscles, apart from your heart and your lungs, relax and go completely floppy. Your tongue is an enormous great muscle attached to your bottom jaw. People talk about swallowing your tongue. You can't swallow your tongue. It's not possible. Your tongue is enormous. Here we go. It is that big. And it is very firmly attached to your bottom jaw. So it's not really going anywhere much, except it is the texture of uncooked ox tongue. So it's big and it's floppy and it's pretty revolting. So if you are lying on your back and this big heavy texture tongue is sitting there, gravity will mean that the back of the tongue will naturally flop down and block the back of your airway. And that's what they mean by swallowing your tongue. The problem when they talk about swallowing your tongue is that people instinctively want to try and pull the tongue clear. And if someone's doing that and that person was fitting, yes, if you are putting your fingers in to get someone's tongue up and they are having a convulsion, a seizure, a fit, whatever you want to call it, you could very well end up holding their tongue because their jaw will come together and they will not know anything about it until later. Or you might lose a bit of your finger as well. So if somebody is fitting, please do not put anything at all in their mouth. Yeah.
Because people used to put like sticks and stuff trying to keep their mouth.
And all it does is break their teeth. Makes things worse.
But did they actually used to follow that guideline before?
Mm-hmm.
They used to do that.
People tried to put things in, yeah. But if they're going to bite into their lip or tongue, they will bite into their lip or tongue. You sort that out after. But you will make things worse to try and put something in. You certainly do not want to be pulling their tongue out that way. Okay, so what happens is the back of the tongue flops down and will block the airway. So what you need to do is open the airway to see if taking the tongue off the back of the throat will allow the air to go down. So what has happened is that the tongue has flopped back down like that. So it's blocking the airway. So what you need to do is tilt the head and lift the chin that takes the back of the tongue off the back of the airway. So we have enormous great tongues. To open our airway, you have to tilt the head and lift the chin all the way back. So you put 2 fingers under the chin, 1 hand on the head, and you tilt the head and lift the chin all the way back to there. You would then have a little look in the mouth and see if there's anything obvious. So chewing gum, teeth knocked out, whatever, that you just remove with your finger and thumb. Don't finger sweep or poke down. You need to keep holding, because if you let go, it's going to flop back because they're unconscious. You put your cheek above their mouth and nose. You look down the body. You look, you listen, and you feel the breath on your cheek to see if they are breathing. So if you put 2 fingers under your chin and push your head all the way back and try and swallow, you'll find that if you've gone all the way back, you shouldn't be able to. If you have a go, see how far back it is. It's a long way back. And it's really important that you register how far back that is. Because it's that far back to open the airway to see if they are breathing. But when we get on to a later stage, if you found that they were unconscious and not breathing and you needed to resuscitate, if you haven't opened the airway completely and the tongue is blocking the back of the airway, you can open the mouth, but if you're breathing into them, you're not going to get the air down in order to inflate their lungs. So that's why it's really important to understand what you're doing at this stage. So you're hoping that if they weren't breathing when you first got to them, that tilting their head and lifting the chin can take the tongue off the back of the throat and they spontaneously start to breathe again. Fantastic. In which case, you will still need to put them into the recovery position, and I will explain why. So for an adult, you open the airway like that, all the way back. For a baby, they will fall with the chin on the chest. So for a baby to open their airway, you tilt the head and lift the chin just to horizontal. You don't want to overextend the airway on a baby because you'll close the airway again. So just to horizontal is all that needs to happen for a baby. You support like that, quick look in the mouth, and then you would look, listen, feel the breath on your cheek to see if they're breathing. Okay?
What stage do they change from being the treatment
About
of a baby? About one.
About one, yeah. This is equivalent to about a 4 or 5 month old baby. Do you say that's about equivalent? Yeah.
So my children that I look after will be the whole way back. So like,
Your children will be this.
right, okay.
Yeah, this is equivalent to about a 5-year-old, 4 to 5-year-old, up to adolescence, so up to puberty. So for a child, they say the sniffing position, which is somewhere between. Yeah, like that. And you would need to support like that. Have a little look, chewing gum, teeth knocked out, whatever else might be in there. Quick removal, and look, listen and feel to see if they're breathing. Right, there is another problem when you are unconscious, because your esophagus, so the tube down to your stomach, also fails and relaxes as an open tube. So whatever you have in your stomach will end up trickling up and dripping down into your lungs. So if you are lying on your back, you will end up doing what they refer to as choking on your own vomit, which sounds really quite spectacular, but it is a very passive process where the contents just trickle up and drip into your lungs. And what in practice you would tend to find is that they start gurgling. So the only way to keep the airway open is to put them into a position where the contents will drain out and the tongue will flop forward, which keeps the airway open, which is the recovery position.